If it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. Most people don't wake up one day and decide to just start something new or make a big change. Usually there's something else
Right.
that's happening in their life that kind of force them to make a change. Maybe divorce, kind of
Yeah.
jolts you and you have to make a change, right? Because the marriage is ending and you have to figure out what are you going to do next. It's the same thing with jobs. I always know, again, from the past and from my training, when you get to the other side and you look back, that thing that happened was a
Hmm.
gift. And
Mm.
because if it hadn't happened, it wouldn't have been the inspiration either to
Right.
survive or to make that next move. So I believe part of it is just I believe and I know there's something good on the other side, and it's also enjoying the journey. Every day is going to present some new challenge, or you'll meet some new person, or you'll have some new experience. I actually think that's pretty good.
In this episode, you will hear a line that has stayed with me since the moment Cheryl said it. If it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. She said it while talking about the moments in life that force us to move, even when we're not ready. A divorce, a relocation, the end of a job you thought would last a little bit longer. Most people don't wake up one morning and choose reinvention. Sometimes these things happen, and you have to decide who you'll be on the other side. That's the heart of Office Hours. The show brings in experts who understand what transition really looks like, not the polished version, but the part where you're scared, unsure, and trying to figure out what comes next. These are the conversations that are meant to help you take that next step if you're unemployed or between roles, and to remind you that challenge and change often arrive together. Today's guest, Cheryl Dillon, has spent nearly 2 decades working with people in transition. She is a longtime divorce mediator, a certified coach, a founder of a midlife women's community, and a professional who's guided clients through some of the most difficult identity shifts anyone could ever face. Here's my conversation with Cheryl Dillon. Let's get it. Welcome to Life Between Titles. I'm your host, Savan, and today I've got my friend Cheryl. Cheryl, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Cheryl, you had sent me a list of things that described your life, and I want to kick off our conversation by asking you something about your houseplants. So you've got 35 houseplants. I imagine they're houseplants.
Yeah.
Um, what do you think? What do you think inspired you to have as many houseplants as you do?
I'm a hoarder. No. Um, you know, um, I am originally from the East Coast, and
Uh-huh.
you know, I lived in Chicago, New Jersey. In those places, the seasons change, and so it was never really possible for me to keep houseplants alive because if there was sun coming into the window in a couple of months, then the rest of the year it wasn't. And if that plant needed sun all year round, obviously, it was a challenge to keep it thriving. And so I just kind of gave up. And then I moved out to Southern California about 7 years ago.
Uh-huh.
And that was one of the first things I did once we got settled into our house is I started getting some plants, to decorate. And because the weather is more consistent here, so it was easier to keep them healthy. And then because I was learning how to take care of them, and I was getting very confident in my
Yeah.
ability to do that, I'd have a plant that would live, more than a couple of days. So that was a big win. And
Right.
there's so many garden centers around here, so I just was so interested. I just find them all so beautiful, and it was always, let me get another one and see if I could take care of that one. So it just kind of snowballed that way. And now there are plants in almost every room of the house. Some rooms have, up to 5 or 6 plants in them. And again, if you need a good confidence boost, for me
Yep.
anyway, that was a big one because some of these plants I've had now for, 6 years. And so,
Yep.
pretty proud of myself. And again, they're beautiful and they really add to the environment.
Yeah, I agree. I've loved plants more now in my 40s than I ever have. And when we moved down to Southern California from Washington and then back up here, transporting those plants was a pain in the butt. Like just
Yeah.
trying to get them in a place where they're not, falling over and breaking and all these things. But the amount of joy they give you is incredible. What's your favorite house plant that you have?
Uh, I have a few, but one of my favorite ones, I don't know if you can see it in the screen. You can probably see a little tiny bit of it. It's a weeping fig tree
Uh,
here,
Okay.
and
Okay.
that one, again, I've had it for a whole bunch of years. It's in the
Yeah.
correct location, for the kind of sun that it needs, and it keeps growing, and I just love how it looks very delicate and but yet it's so beautiful to look at. There's different colors in the leaves, and I've upgraded its pot probably 3 times since I've had it, but I would say that that's among my favorites.
I'm always interested in trying to figure out the drivers for people to commit to something uh long term, such as, being a good plant owner or a plant parent. What do you think owning all these plants and taking care of all these plants for all these years is saying about who you are as a person? Do you think there's something there that really is driving making sure you're taking care of these things? Because plants can die pretty easily if you neglect them and you fail to pay attention to them. But
Mhm.
for you, what do you think that would be?
Well, I don't have human children, and
Mm-hmm.
I've always had dogs. I have a dog now, Wrigley, and
Right.
I take care of her, of course. And the plants, they're like my children also in a lot of ways. And um, for me, it's kind of relaxing. It's part of my
Yeah.
morning routine. I have an app that reminds me which ones need care. And sometimes I'm busy or I'm like, oh, I don't have time for this, but I of course have to make the time because they're living things, and if you neglect them, obviously they're not going to thrive. So I think the commitment is just I take responsibility for keeping them alive, and they beautify my home, and I obviously, it's nurturing. It helps slow me down a little bit because I'm a type A personality, and it's kind of like a win all around. Again, the beauty, and they just look so pretty in here, and I feel responsible for keeping
Mm-hmm.
them that way. And it's just become just part of my routine, and part of my life. I don't even really give it much of a second thought. It's just I wouldn't
Yeah.
not do it. So
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that. Cheryl, I want to take it back a little bit and talk about where you grew up. You mentioned you were on the East Coast. Whereabouts were you in the East Coast?
I grew up in New Jersey.
Okay. What was that like?
It was great. I grew up in a suburban neighborhood, and lived on a cul-de-sac, walked to elementary school, and um, the area, there was lots of kids my age, and I it's funny. I've been away from New Jersey now for quite a while, but I go back, and I have a lot of friends that are still there, and I just kind of pick up where I left off. I obviously, um, you know, I I drive fast, I talk fast, I'm pretty type A, so I blend right in. And
Yeah.
I definitely appreciate all the food and the pace and the culture and the lifestyle. It was a really fun place to grow up, and I feel lucky to have done so. I do miss it now, but I certainly don't miss some of the weather, and I certainly don't miss the high taxes and the congestion and whole bunch of
Right.
I certainly don't miss hurricanes, but yeah, overall it was pretty great.
What do you think are some of the common? I've got a couple of friends from New Jersey, but and I feel like there are certain characteristics that they have that nobody else in the entire world has. But what do you think that Jersey charisma is? Like, what? How, if you could describe it, what would that be?
I mean, I think, there's a lot of thoughts about people from the East Coast that they're very direct and
Yeah.
they say what's on their mind. If you ask their opinion, they're going to give it to you. They don't sugarcoat anything.
Yeah. Yep.
I know that's a stereotype. Not everyone is that way, but I definitely fall into that bucket. Um, and I feel like, having lived on the East Coast and also in Chicago and now California, I've seen, a lot of different cultures.
Hmm.
The way people stereotypically behave with each other. I don't even know if it's stereotypical, it's just conducive of the culture.
Yeah.
On the East Coast, you didn't give it a second thought about being direct or saying what was
Yep.
on your mind. Um, when I lived in Chicago, it was a bit of a culture shock because that I think was pretty jolting for other people to
Right.
be
Right.
around me and for me to be that way. My impression quickly was that people are very friendly and they generally you know maybe wouldn't tell you exactly what's on their mind unless it was a very close relationship. Where, um, and we would say that people on the East Coast they're like M&Ms, like they have a hard shell, but once you break through it, they're soft on the inside. They'll be your best friend and you really
Yeah.
bond. But in the Midwest, people are more like peaches. They're soft on the outside, but they're kind of hard on, it's hard to get to know them, hard to really like dive in and get to know um, you know, m- more of that inner stuff. But everybody's super warm and friendly. And then
Right.
in California, I'm not really sure what to make of it. Certainly not direct.
Yep.
I don't know about friendly. Depends.
Yeah.
Pretty. It's
Yep.
just pretty. People are pretty laid back, and it's just different. So I think I can appreciate all of those things, and I think it's a little bit of a benefit for me to have lived in Chicago and then out here because it kind of softened my edges a little bit. I'm still pretty edgy, but definitely definitely
Yeah.
softened my edges a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with you about Southern California. When my wife and I lived there, coming from Seattle and also working in DC, I could see all the different types of character traits. And Southern California is an enigma to me. I think people want to be friendly, but I don't know if they know how in some ways. And that's no knock on people that are from SoCal. I've got a ton of friends and family that are still out there, but
Yeah.
I just think that the attitude towards how you communicate with other people is different. And I'm not sure sort of like what is driving sort of like the differences between somebody from Jersey or New York or DC versus Seattle. And
hmm
Seattle definitely has its quirks as well. And Southern California.
I've definitely made a lot of good friends out here.
Hmm.
Many of them are from Chicago and the East Coast.
Yeah.
And, but I have made a lot of friends who are from California. And again, I'm not really sure, um, you know, why the culture feels so differently to me than other places I've lived, but I do know that there's a lot of really great people out here, and maybe it just
Right.
takes a little bit longer for to
Right.
to feel comfortable and to open up. And yeah,
Yeah. Agreed. So were you born in New Jersey or did you just grow up there?
yeah, I was born there.
Okay. Okay. How was it like as a teenager, um, growing up out there?
Um, like, can you be a little more specific? Like what? Yeah.
Yeah. Are there certain things that you remember growing up in New Jersey as a teenager, so let's just say high school, that really, helped establish who you are as an adult? Are there certain events or gatherings or people or friend groups that really sort of impacted who you are now?
I think all of our life experiences shape us. No matter where we're from, a lot of it is our parents or how we're raised, our friends, the media, our own beliefs and values, some that we've inherited from our parents and some that are our own. I think for me, I was a pretty outgoing, uh, you know, social kid. Um,
Hmm.
I wanted to be popular, and I found
We
myself
all
in
did.
found
Uh,
myself in these groups of friends who were, very smart and also popular. Um,
right.
we were a big group, but I think that um, I guess when I look back on it, uh, I I think maybe I would have rather been friends with the nerds, versus the popular kids because,
Yeah.
I kinda was really more a nerd myself, and, um, but really, all kidding aside, I just learned that you sometimes when you wanna be in a particular group, you
Hmm.
modify yourself to fit in. And
Hmm.
that's maybe you're not being necessarily authentic. And those are some things that have really shaped me because for a lot of years, I really couldn't kind of shake that off. And depending on what group I was around, maybe would dim parts of myself to fit in. But in the more recent years, I've just had an awareness of a lot of that, and I've been actually working really hard to not do that and to just appreciate, not everyone is going to like you, and that's okay. That you have to like yourself and you have to be comfortable in your own skin, and a lot of that comes from um, you know, letting your light shine and not making parts of you smaller, just to be accepted by another group of people.
It's so hard for teenagers and young adults to be as reflective as I don't know if they should be or need to be. Like I also remember as a kid, I had pockets of different cliques of friends and they were vastly different. I was just trying to figure out where I fit in half the time and where I needed to spend my time. And it's just it's hard because there's so many different pressures,
Mhm.
from your family, your friends, the community, and all these things. For you growing up there, what do you think were some of the things that inspired you as a teenager, as a young adult? You mentioned that you moved out to Chicago. Like, were there things that inspired you to say, "Okay, like I'm done with Jersey. It's in the rear view. I'm now going and carving out, my own name and moving to a different state."
I liked living in New Jersey.
Mhm.
I actually always wanted to live in Southern California.
Okay.
From when I was young. I don't even know why. I had a T-shirt that had like
Yeah.
a sunset on it and these, birds, and it was just said California on it. And I don't
Yeah.
know, maybe that made some sort of an impression. But from a young age, I always imagined what it would be like to live out here. But things just never really lined up for it along the way.
Right.
I had a career in New Jersey. My family was there. My friends were all there. And I actually, I I had gone through a divorce after a shorter-ish term marriage, and after the divorce, I thought, okay, I'm going to just pick up now and go to California. And that
Yeah.
year, there were a lot of fires, and I'm
Mm.
terrified
What
of
year was
that.
that?
I want to say it was like 2003. I feel
Okay.
like it was somewhere around that time, and there were a lot of fires that year, and I really was scared of that, and so I didn't move. But it's kind of a good thing because I met the person who became my husband,
Mhm.
and we've been married 20 years. And so if I had moved at that
Wow.
point, I never probably would have, never would have met him. But
Yeah.
after we got married in '05, we both were thinking about living someplace that had just a little more of a social life, more culture, more things to do. And like I said, we were living in a pretty
Right.
suburban area,
Right.
near Princeton in New Jersey, and we didn't have children. And the town where we were living was very focused on the soccer and the schools and kids, and it was wonderful. But again, we were just looking for just little bit more action. And
Right.
so we, knowing New York City, we knew that was a little too big for us. It was a little too overwhelming. We didn't want to move there. My
Mhm.
husband went to college in Philadelphia. We knew that Philly's lovely, but we didn't want to go there. So we just sort of started exploring different parts of the country, and then we would each kind of like rank certain priorities, what we were looking for. Of course, nothing
Yeah.
lined up. We were looking for two completely uh, different sets of criteria, but
Yeah.
ultimately, we both really liked Chicago, and we decided to move there. And so it was really more of an intention to live in a city because of
Mhm.
where we were in life. We were in our mid 30s, and we were just looking to have more walkability and be able to go to concerts and, museums and just, have more activities that were close by. And so we lived there, and we lived there for 5 years.
Mhm.
We lived right by Wrigley Field, and we were there the year the Cubs won the World Series, so it was like right in our
Woohoo!
neighborhood. It was
Wow.
so much fun. We're huge Cubs fans, and it was really, really fun, a fun 5 years. But again, the winters are pretty rough, and
Yeah. Agreed.
it was kind of taking a toll on my mental health, just to have so many months of cold and gray, and so that was kind of the impetus to finally move, and I finally got to California. So
Is Chicago a lot more gray and cold than New Jersey?
yeah,
Like relatively?
I think so. The thing
Okay.
about, again, the climate has changed everywhere over
Mhm.
over the years, but of what I remember growing up in New Jersey, there would just be certain months where it would start to get cold. You'd have a couple of months of snow, and then it was always like, you know, was it like April showers bring May flowers? So,
Yeah.
you'd have the
Right.
rain in April, but then in May, mid-May, around Mother's Day, it would start to get nice. It would be spring. So you could rely on it more. And even years that there wasn't snow, even when it was cold, the sun was out. And so it just felt a little bit, it was difficult, but it was a little more tolerable, and it was more predictable. And Chicago, all the years we were there was different because the first year we were there, it was the polar vortex, and that was in
Oh,
2013, and that
yeah.
was record snow, record cold. It started
Boy.
early. It was a very long season. There were other years we were there where there wouldn't be a lot of snow, but the sky was just gray. And sometimes that would start, sometimes it would snow on Halloween or before Halloween. And one
Oh, that's
year
too
we
soon.
had friends
That's
come
too
out.
soon.
Yeah, one year we had friends come out for Memorial Day weekend, and we literally had to lend them winter coats. So,
Oh man.
so it was really just you just really didn't know what you were gonna get, and it could be, 7 or 8 months of just, you know, not pleasant weather. I certainly wasn't used to it. There's plenty of people who live there. It was no big deal at all, but is difficult for me.
Um, Cheryl, I want to maybe take it two steps back and talk about your husband a little bit and your marriage. When we talked earlier, it seemed like you guys have this very strong marriage and that you also work together. I know that sometimes when people are married and they work together, that could cause rifts, that could cause a lot of stress and anxiety. But for you, it sounded like it worked out pretty well, just in terms of the overall, scheme of how things worked. Tell me a little bit more about how that came to be.
Okay. Well, as I said, we got married in our mid-30s. We were both working in corporate environments. New
Hmm.
Jersey, it's pharmaceutical. It's a pretty
Yeah.
big pharma capital. And I was working as a recruiter in a pharmaceutical company, and a number of them I was a consultant, and he was working in also a corporate environment, and then he had gotten a job also at Johnson and Johnson, one of the pharma
Hmm.
companies.
Yeah.
And we were just really wanting to get out of that rat race. We
Hmm.
wanted to be self-employed. We wanted to do something different. We, of course, were much younger. We had a lot more energy back
Right.
then. But somebody that my husband was working with, his father owned a franchise, and it was a cooking school for children, and it
Oh.
was it was brand new, and it was created by the guy. I don't know if you're familiar with Curves. It's like a women's gym.
Oh yeah,
Um,
women's only gym. Yep,
yeah,
pink,
so
pink,
so that
all
guy,
over.
it was these two women from Baylor College, and they had the idea, and then they teamed up with this guy, Gary, and then they franchised it, and it was called Young Chefs Academy. And we
Ah,
so we heard of it again through this colleague of my husband, and then we met with his father. We went to go look at their location and learn more about it, and I don't know, just kind of spoke to us. It was just so different. Um, we were able, my husband and I both have a lot of different kinds of skills, and they were very complementary to running a business. And
mhm.
so, he loves to cook. At the time, I love to bake. And so we just kind of went for it. So we opened a cooking school for children, and we worked together. And it was a lot of hard work, and it was a lot of fun. The key to working together was having job descriptions so that
Ah,
we wouldn't be tripping on each other. So there were certain things that he was responsible for, certain things I was responsible for, and that really worked out. And
right.
we ran that together for, I think, like just a short time, like 2 years or so.
Mhm.
And then what was happening was the housing bubble. I don't know if you remember, like back in '07 and '08.
Oh wait,
So,
yep, for
yep. So
sure.
the price of food was going up. The price of gas was going up. It was affecting our business because there was only so much you could charge for the classes and the birthday parties and everything. Just, we kind of saw the writing on the wall, and we sold it. And then I went back to corporate because I
Mhm.
hadn't been out too long where I had lost my skills and my network. So I went back in, I
Right,
took a contract, and
right.
he did a lot of research and soul searching, like, what was he going to do next? Um, and he wound up utilizing all the skills he had in a different way. He became a divorce mediator. He had a background in contract negotiations and finance, and all the skills that lend itself to mediation. Um, his parents went through a pretty nasty divorce when he was a kid, and so he knew. what not to do. And so again, like it really was it was a great choice for him. Very complimentary to his skills, his personal background. And so he started this mediation practice. And then a couple years after me going back in corporate, again, I didn't want to be in that environment. And so
Right.
you know, I left the assignment that I was on and went to coaching school. And because I had been previously divorced and again had a lot of passion about that, I used mediation.
Hmm.
I joined him in the business. And so we started working together for the second time. And that was so the mediation practice was formed in 2008, and I joined him in 2010. And we've been working together for more than 17 years at this point for the second
Wow.
business.
Right.
And then earlier this year, I started another business, and that's Funderful Experiences. And
Yeah.
he is a partner, but really he helps me with some of the back end stuff, does my books, and helps me with some of the technology. But for the most part, it's yeah, I'm spearheading that. So the mediation practice is still running, and I'm still active in that business. But we've automated so much of it that I was able to free up some time. I still meet with prospective clients when they're exploring working with us, and I coach clients that want to coach with me, but then the rest of
Hmm.
my time is focused on Funderful Experiences. But we've been working together a lot of years, and the key is job descriptions and respect.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. My wife and I have worked together a handful of times as well. Most recently, we owned a toy store together. It's a brick and mortar toy store, and we sold toys that didn't have batteries or a screen. And
Yeah,
I'll tell
wow,
you what, it was super hard and super challenging.
I bet.
Um, just because we both like doing things our own way at times, and trying to reconcile who does what was really hard. So I really love the idea of those job descriptions, because I think
Yeah.
it's like simple things like that can go a long way in terms of contributing to the longevity of a business. Sure, I want to ask you about Funderful Experience and what that is. If you could explain that to me in a couple sentences, what would it be?
I mean, I'm from the East Coast. I don't know about a couple sentences. Um, well, you had asked me a little while ago about my earlier experiences growing up and how that shaped me. And I feel like so there's a couple of things. The same way I finally got out to California, where certain things aligned and certain things just felt like the logical next step. It's the
Hmm.
same actually with Funderful Experiences. I um I moved to California. I was 48. Um,
Okay.
no human children. Um,
Right.
self-employed, work from home.
Right.
So
Right.
no built-in community. We didn't know anybody out here when we moved, and no natural ways of integrating into the community, right? Usually you'd meet people through your work, or you'd meet your children's friends, parents, or something like that. But we didn't have any of those opportunities. So a little after we got here, we bought our house, we settled in, and then it was the pandemic. And so for,
Mm,
2+ years, it was a lot of self-quarantine and again, pretty isolating. And luckily my husband is my best friend. Um, but it was kind of lonely, to not be able to have friends and be active in the community, not see people, interact with them. I'm pretty social, and so
right.
that was happening. The other thing that was happening even sooner is just doing a lot of soul searching. My father passed away when he was 58, and I'm 56.
Wow.
And so
Wow.
I'm in a part of life where I'm really starting to be very aware of, um, you know, time, your time here is finite and you don't know how much time you have. I spent a lot of years um, keeping myself small and being afraid to do things, even things that I loved, because I was afraid of being judged or failing or looking like an idiot or, all kinds of stuff. So that's kind of happening, I would say, ever since maybe my mid 50s, but all of this is kind of happening, in parallel. Um, I've always wanted to have a big group of women friends, supportive
Hmm.
ones. Over the years,
Hmm.
I've experienced a lot of women who were very cliquey, gossipy, you know, n- not not supportive and uplifting. Really, women who were just kind of scary, couldn't be trusted.
Right.
Again, y I was always uncomfortable around groups of women ever since some of these other experiences. But it's something that I still really want, a group of women friends who really care about each other, support each other, have fun together. So that's kind of happening at the same time. And then the other piece is that I've been working in the mediation practice now for myself personally for 15 years. It's meaningful, but I'm just looking for something more or different. This is the longest I've ever been in the same job. And, if you're in the same company, maybe you're getting promoted or new opportunities, but I've been in the same role for so many years and I'm just looking for something new, and something that's very meaningful to me in this stage of life. Because I couldn't find these women, because I couldn't find this community, I decided I would
Hmm.
build it myself. And
Hmm.
so last year, I went back to school and I got a certificate in event planning from San
Okay.
Diego State University. And I added that to my business skills, my coaching skills, and
Right.
I used it to create Funderful Experiences. So it's more than a couple of sentences, but this is something that I feel like I was always meant to do it, that it never was on the radar, but all these different things were happening, and it right now felt for me like the right time, because if not now, then when, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I think first, I think that's an amazing story. Just all the things come together at it seems like at the right time. Um, Cheryl, if you had to maybe pick out one or two key things that led you to fully committing to starting this thing, because part of the conversations I have with people on this podcast is there's this anxiety, this nervousness to make a commitment to yourself or to maybe taking the job that you think might not be the right job or, just a series of things that people feel very stuck in their life. For you, when you kicked off this business, like, were there some key things that really sort of kicked you in the butt and said, "Okay, I'm doing this now. I'm going to get the certificate. I'm going to start this business, and if it goes well, great, and if it doesn't go well, then at least I tried."
Um, you know, for the first time in my life, I'm not pursuing a job or a career
Mhm.
for the income level. Um,
Right.
Obviously, I don't want to be in business for free. Um,
Right.
but I'm just using my intuition, what feels right for me, and what I'm building it's something personal, not just business. So,
Mhm.
it's very meaningful to me, and, there are certainly days that I'm like, "Why did I do this?" Or, "I should be winding down or getting ready to retire, like, why am I what am I doing to myself?" Because it's a lot of
Yeah.
work. Um, but I just really feel strongly, I feel, uh, pulled to do it. I also see it as something that I can do way into retirement, you know, because it's meaningful as one aspect of the business is local. It's a local in-person membership community, and that's
Mm-hmm.
beneficial, you know, no matter how old I am. As far as the commitment to do it, it's, in different times in my life, if something gets hard, I quit.
Mm-hmm.
And some of that came from growing up where no one really held me accountable.
I
So,
see.
if I did soccer and I didn't like it anymore, I would just quit. My parents didn't say, well, you have to honor your commitment and do it for the year or something like that. So it was kind of like, whatever, I'm just not going to do this anymore.
Yeah.
What I'm doing is I'm going against all of the fears and all of the things that I maybe used to do. Um, and I have a commitment to do it differently and just to go right through the fear, even when I'm scared, to keep going. Even when I'm having a bad day and I want to quit, to know that I'm just tired, or I need to just get away from my desk and take a break or go do something else that puts gas in the tank, and then go back to it after, or go back to it the next day, or something like that. So, this is really, I feel like I'm in a very different place. I feel a lot more calm about this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm nervous because I'm really putting myself out there in a lot of ways that I never would have done before.
Right.
But I believe in this so much, and it's so meaningful for me personally. And I've spoken to a lot of other women who are looking for the same thing. And so I just feel a pull to be the one to see it through. I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, yeah, it totally does. It totally does. I mean, for the audience listening, um, what are some ways or tips that you've used to help you push through that fear? Because I know for many people, it is that fear that is holding them back from maybe taking a job that's different than what they've done for 10, 15 years, or starting their own business, or maybe even picking up a new hobby, or going to a community center where they don't know anybody. There's just a lot of that that's happening now based on the economy and
Yeah.
how things are going. But for you, what are some things that you've done to sort of get you over that hump so that you can start to make these commitments to yourself?
Well, first of all, I have a mantra. If it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. And
Mm,
uh,
I
and
love
so
that.
a lot of these things, I'm just drawing on a lot of past experiences and also my coaching skills,
Yeah.
and my life skills. Um, you know, as far as w- most people don't wake up one day and decide to just start something new or make a big change. Usually there's something else
Right.
that's happening in their life that kind of like force them to make a change. Maybe a divorce, kind of
Yeah.
jolts you, and you have to make a change, right? Because the marriage is ending, and you have to figure out, you know what are you going to do next, and your identity shifting and things like that. It's the same thing with jobs. um, you know I always know, again, from the past and from my training, when you get to the other side and you look back, that thing that happened was a
Mm-hmm.
gift. And
Mm,
because if it hadn't happened, it wouldn't have been the inspiration either to
right.
survive, or to make that next move. So I believe part of it is just I believe and I know there's something good on the other side, and it's also enjoying the journey. Every day is going to present some new challenge, or you'll meet some new person, or you'll have some new experience. I actually think that's pretty good, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
for sure. I do
so
too.
yes, I'm not afraid of that. I actually welcome that. I love that. I think that as far as, the inspiration, like when you're feeling like you want to quit, or you're feeling very afraid, or you're feeling unsure of yourself, that's all normal. It's good to have a good
Mhm.
support system around you. I have a great partner. So when I'm feeling very down, he really helps boost me back up. He reminds me, of how great I am, and how what I have to offer, and he reminds me that I basically that I'm better than I am thinking that I am
Right.
when I'm
Right.
feeling pretty down. So it's good to have support. I have a couple of friends that do the same, and I do that for them because I believe it. It's just sometimes when you're feeling afraid, you're doubting yourself. Um, the other thing is sometimes it's useful for me to take a break when I'm feeling very overwhelmed or scared or vulnerable. I just put it aside and I go volunteer, or I go do something to help somebody else because doing those things just has such you just get such a good feeling, and it distracts you from
Hmm.
your problems, and it also again boosts your confidence. It's a win-win. You're helping somebody else and they're helping you back. And so I feel that it's useful sometimes to get out of your environment and go shift and do something else that takes your mind off it. And that might even be gardening, or taking a walk with your dog, or talking to a friend on the phone. I find a lot of that useful, or volunteering. I'm pretty active volunteer in a couple different places. So that's important. Stop focusing on your own stuff, shift, go do something that makes you feel good, and that often will help you have the energy to look at things differently when you sit back down at your desk. And then the other thing is I do a lot of I coach myself. So I'm
Okay.
aware of the fear. And the fear, by the way, I know, this might be a little too out there for, um, it's like the fear is showing up to keep you safe. When you are aware that there's fear,
Hmm.
it's okay. It's like you can kind of make friends with that fear. You're aware, okay, something's like scary and big and different happening. I'm afraid. So the fear would normally keep you from even trying that thing or doing that thing because it wants to keep you safe from failing or from feeling rejection or judgment. I just kind of coach myself. So when I feel that, it's like I'm having this whole inner monologue. You're good. You have what it takes, you can do this, you can get through this, so kind of give myself a little pep talk. And so I'm constantly coaching myself, which is beneficial to kind of
Yeah.
work through a lot of those things as they're coming up.
Yeah. I definitely try to coach myself. Sometimes it doesn't work out as great as I'd like. If you don't have that self-care and self-love, you're not going to get anywhere. Cheryl, tell me a little bit about the format of your business and how it works, because there's a physical component to it in addition to this community component, but explain to me sort of like how everything comes together.
Well, my signature program is an in-person membership community, and
Okay.
um, I have a venue that I rent, and it's private venue, and once a month I host a gathering, and the members come, and it's 2
Mhm.
hours, on a Tuesday night from 6 to 8, and there's like a light structure to it. So there's certain
Mhm.
rituals that we do every month. There's always like a meat and potatoes, like a main topic that I
Okay.
lead, and then there's group discussion afterwards. There's some silly, fun activities that we do just to laugh and get to know each other better. There's
Right.
some gratitude and celebrating wins, and there are certain things we do to close it out. So it's basically, and people ask me like, "Can you describe what these are?" And it's so hard because I'm not aware of this existing anywhere else.
Mhm.
I just kind of dreamed it up. It's a community of women that are very open-minded, and
Mhm.
they're looking for more meaning and depth in their lives. They're looking for more fun and joyful moments. They're in the same age group as me, 50s and 60s, where they're reflecting on their lives. They have great lives. They raised children. They've, done lots of things and traveled. So it's really not about fixing their life. It's about
Mm-hmm.
how can we make this chapter of life vibrant, joyful, all possibilities there, fully alive. How can we live fully? Because there's a lot of perceptions that middle-aged people are just slowing down and kind of getting ready to just retire and sit around or just play golf or knit, which there's nothing wrong with those things, but like just really slow things down, not try new experiences. But I don't believe in that, and I don't want that, and these women don't want that either. And so we're intentionally shaping what this chapter of life is going to be like for us. And these gatherings are the kind of the grounding and uplifting part
Mm-hmm.
of it, the consistent presence in our lives where we're learning and growing and being together and having fun again so that we can carry that good energy into other parts of our lives. So that's the in-person part of it, and it's brand new. Back in the middle of October, I had a preview event where women
Uh-huh.
came to experience what the membership would be like. And then
Okay.
I've had women join, and we got together 2 weeks ago at a restaurant, just casually off the books to get to know each other and talk about what we want this to be like. And I wanted input from them. And we're going to have our
Mm-hmm.
first monthly gathering in early December. So this is all brand new, but I'm really, really excited about it. And I love the input that I received from these women because I feel like we're all rowing in the same direction and
Right.
looking for the same kinds of things. So I'm even more excited to host them and to uh, share things with them, insights and tools that will help them, you know, have the kind of midlives that they're looking for. And then I write a weekly newsletter called The Uplift, and it goes
Okay.
out every Thursday morning. It's a free newsletter, and in it is, pretty vulnerable. I share stories from my own life. I share anonymized stories from some of my clients' lives. And then I
Mm-hmm.
offer tips and tools for how I addressed whatever was the challenge or how I coach them to address some of these challenges so that the readers hopefully can resonate and use those things in their own lives. Also in the newsletter, I have a couple of reflection prompts, just things to kind of get people thinking if they want to journal about them. It's a great way to do that. And then I give them the weekly uplift where I actually give them a challenge and something to try that week. And it's really all meant to build online community and just to spread this kind of message with a broader population. So the newsletter is national. And then I also have my private coaching practice, which is available to women anywhere. I do the divorce coaching in my primary business, but in Funderful, it's more midlife issues such as,
Mm-hmm.
identity shifts, empty nesters. It's
Yeah.
people nearing retirement or just retired. It's people who are have divorced or are widows, there or have just moved to this area. A lot of people retire and move here. So there's lots of different identity shifts and things that are happening for people, major life transitions in this stage of life. And the
Mm-hmm.
coaching is private one-on-one to help coach them through it.
Wow. That's a lot of things you've
It's a
got going
lot.
on, Cheryl, with
I
that.
mean, we
That's
go,
a lot.
I'm from Jersey. We go big. So
I definitely am not in your demographic. I am in my 40s and a man with kids still. And so a lot of the things that you're talking about don't fall into the purview of things I think about every day. But for women that are in that sweet spot of your clients, friends, colleagues, what can they expect out of an experience like this? And why should people invest their time and money into something like this? Because one of the things I'm trying to do with this podcast is show people the possibility of things like coaches or events or communities or skill sets. But for something like Funderful that you provide, what can women that's in your sweet spot expect out of these events?
it's important for anybody, right, to exercise and take care of their health through exercise or eating healthy. Um, my gatherings help people take care of their well-being and their mental health.
Mm-hmm.
So it isn't therapy, but it's therapeutic. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Joy and fun contribute to our overall well-being. Having
Absolutely.
face-to-face social interactions versus just scrolling on Instagram or something like that, there's a lot of health benefits to being together, to socializing. And there are a lot of health benefits to socializing on a deeper level, right? We come across people in our lives where it's, hey, did you see that game where you're chit-chatting about the weather? You never really go below the surface. And that's lovely depending on the situation. But um, the women that are part of this community are seeking something more deep and
Yep.
more meaningful
Yep.
conversation. We don't talk about politics or religion or anything divisive. We talk
Mm-hmm.
about things that we're experiencing in our lives. We also talk about things that are positive. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's uplifting to be around other people who are positive. And when you're around someone positive, you feel like $1,000,000. It lifts you up, gives you energy, makes you feel happy. So I think that while the while it's not the only focus of the gatherings for mental health, there's absolutely something about these gatherings contributing and improving your overall mental health and well-being, your joy and your happiness. Um, the other thing is, I'm old school. I didn't grow up with a smartphone. And so while I'm very tech savvy, I'm finding
Mm-hmm.
it to be a bit of a bore to be scrolling all day and looking at other people's highlight reels. I just love in-person connection and the beautiful energy of being with people and experiencing something with them. So that's what this community is all about. It's taking a break from the phone. And, we don't take our phones out during the gatherings. We're present with each other and really having an experience that's memorable, meaningful, deep, and also silly and fun. So,
Yeah.
so I,
Got to
I, I
cover all
would
your
say,
bases.
yeah, absolutely.
Cheryl, one of the things I've been thinking about as we're having this conversation is how to get people to start sharing things that may be painful or a challenge. You talked about trying to get past the how's the game, how's the weather types of conversations to more meaningful conversations. How do you do that in an effective way? Because that's one of the things I've been trying to work on as well, is not just hearing people, but also taking that information and then trying to be able to ingest that in a way where I can actually contribute back to them. So it's
Yeah.
like not just a transactional thing, and getting to that one or two levels deeper. But for you and this business and this community, how are you helping these women get to that sort of like state where they are comfortable and they feel safe in sharing things that are a lot more meaningful?
Yeah, of course. Well, there's a couple of things. First, you know, you have to have an environment where people feel safe and where there's
Right.
trust.
Yep.
And that doesn't, you don't just snap your fingers and it happens. You have to intentionally create that and you have to build that, and people have to feel comfortable over time. And so one of the things that we do is we have the Connected Hearts Promise, and so Connected Hearts is the name of the membership. And we have, it's kind of like a code of conduct. It's certain ways that we behave in the space, and everybody agrees to it. And we read it out loud in the gatherings. And it's basically, everything from keeping confidential what was shared in the space to treating each other with respect, not interrupting each other. Um, Not monopolizing all the airtime, being open, curious, kind. So there's a set of principles that everyone agrees to in terms of how we're going to behave in the space. So that's important. One of our values is also inclusion, and it's making everybody feel like they belong. Because as I experienced a number of times throughout my life, you know, people form cliques and other people feel like they can't break in or they don't fit in or they're not welcome. And so, again, it's very important to me that this is a space where everybody feels welcome and belongs. Even if, you're not going to like everybody, right? It's not everybody likes
Right.
everybody, but we are all respecting each other, and um, we welcome the different viewpoints and the different life experiences because we're all treating each other with respect and
Hmm.
being curious and open about other people and their lives. So I think that's really important, the trust and the safety and the confidentiality. The other thing is, um, you know, if you're asking someone else all these questions, but they're not asking you any questions, it doesn't really create an environment where there's reciprocity, and sharing. We have certain things that we do where they have the floor. No one interrupts them, talks over them, disrespects
Hmm.
them. There's just a big level of respect here. And then the other thing, what you were asking, Savan, how do you ask people the questions where it goes more meaningful? You're not asking people about their childhood traumas. It's not deep like that. That's not the
Right.
purpose of this. That would probably be more appropriate for therapy, and that this is not therapy, right? But all kidding aside, first of all, when someone feels safe and someone feels like they're not judged, they're going to be more willing to share. And we don't force anybody to share anything they're not comfortable with. So that's another thing. And no one is um, ridiculed or judged by not sharing, right? It's whatever feels comfortable for you. And as trust is built, people will share more and more. If one person's sharing and everyone else is sharing too, that also builds trust. The other thing is asking people open-ended questions and not and being quiet and letting them answer without saying, "Oh, I know what you mean," and then going off on your own thing. It's asking them a question, listening, and really hearing what they're saying, being present, not looking at your phone, not being distracted, right? Giving them the time and showing an interest in them. And then there are ways that you can repeat back to them what they said in a way that is natural. So, uh, you know, I have something that I learned in coaching school: clarify, acknowledge, and validate. Someone says something to you, you say it back to them, not verbatim. You say it in your own words, but you're saying it to clarify that what they said is what you heard. And
Hmm.
if you missed something, then they will jump in and correct you. Well, no, what I really meant was blank. Oh, so you're saying, and you say it back, and they say, yes, that's what I was saying. And then, so you've clarified, right? They feel heard because you basically said back to them what they said to you in your own words. Then the next part of that is acknowledging, wow, that sounds really hard. Anybody in that situation would have felt the exact same way. You're validating them. So you're not saying, oh, I know what you mean. I feel that way too. You don't know what they mean, only they do,
Mm.
right? Or only they know how
Mm.
they feel or felt. So, but you're acknowledging and validating what they said. Anybody in your situation would feel that same way. You have every right to feel the way you felt. So again, they feel heard. And by making this kind of communication natural, people really feel seen, heard, they feel valued. And again, it builds a lot of that trust. So I know that was probably more than you were asking, but I hope it was
No,
useful.
that's no, that's great. It's one of those things that as we get older, I am constantly thinking about how these dynamics are changing in my life. And do you think, from your experience as a coach now, that it's harder for people to make friends with other people?
I do. Yeah, I do. I think it's interesting. I'm a member of a local women's club, and it's a service organization. There's some social aspects to it, but it's a 100-year-old club, and it's mostly we go and volunteer at different nonprofits, and there are business meetings once a month, and if there's a woman who's just checking it out, they can come and just sit in a business meeting, decide if they want to be part of it. It's not a hard sell, right? We don't come and like strong arm anybody. It's just if they want to join, we want them to be part of it. And we had a meeting a couple of weeks ago, and I'm on the membership committee. And this woman came in, and I sat next to her, and she said, I'm just checking it out. I'm not a member. And before I could say anything else to her, the next thing out of her mouth was, and I don't know if I'm going to join. Like, in other words, don't try to sell me. And
Right.
and I
Nobody
was
likes
like,
that feeling.
yeah, but like I picked up on her energy. She
Mm-hmm.
clearly had walls up, right? She was very guarded. She was distrustful of what this was. Are we going to sell her? Which
Yeah.
we're not.
How did she
Um,
get there in the first place then? Did somebody just bring her?
she must have heard about it, and she just, I don't know. But this is what I mean. So to your point, she showed up. She was
Yeah.
curious about it. She obviously was interested enough to to come out and be there, but yet she still had walls up. And I made a joke, and tried to make her laugh, but she's really serious. So and then afterwards, the next day, I sent her an email and said, again, it was so nice to meet you. Do you have any questions? I'm happy to be a point of contact. And she didn't reply to me. And um and so when you say, is it harder for people to make friends? I think that if you're a closed person and you're not
Mm-hmm.
in situations where there's other people around you, it maybe is more difficult to make friends because you're closed and you don't even have anybody to go talk to. I think that if you set an intention that you want to make friends, and you get yourself out of the house, even if it's sitting in a coffee shop, but you're in the presence of other people, or you have a
Mm-hmm.
dog and you walk the dog every morning. We've met people because we're on the same pattern. We're walking our dog at the same time. We wave. Some of them we've actually gotten together with. Oh, hey, do you want to get together? Like you feel like you start to get to know them. So you can make friends with people anywhere, but you have to have the right mindset, and you have to be open, and you have to be open to all opportunities that are around you. So it's not like when we were young and we went to school every day and it was easy to be friends with people because you were with them for 6 hours every single day, in class. Or you're going to an office and your office mates, some of them, you complain with them, or you go and you're on the softball team with them, or you go to happy hour, you become friends. If you're if you don't have those built-in, um, you know, places, it may be more challenging. As you get older, it might be more challenging, but part of it is also because you're more guarded and
Yeah.
shy or
Yeah.
uncomfortable. You don't know how to talk to a stranger, strike up the conversation. You don't know how to break the ice, or have a conversation that maybe is a little bit more meaningful than, hey, did you see that game last night? Which, by the way, that could be the intro to a friendship,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Especially if you're talking about the Cubs. But I think it's possible. I think that more effort is required. And even after you make those connections, just like the plants, you need constant care and feeding. You can't just meet somebody once for coffee and be friends. You have to see that person regularly. My thing is always at least once a month. You have to see them to build a relationship. Can't just be texting, you know, and you have to have meaningful experiences with each other, make memories, do things, have experiences, right? where you're making these bonds. So I think it's possible. I think it just requires time, effort, intention, and nurturing and care.
Yeah, the intention is huge. I spoke about this in an earlier podcast. I can't remember which one, but um, the older that I've gotten, the harder it's been to stay up to date with my friends. And I think I do a pretty bad job of it now. My wife we were talking about something, and she was like, I don't think you're that good of a friend. And at first I was like taken aback. I was like, oh, I think I'm a great friend. But the more I think about it, I'm like, I'm probably like a mediocre friend at best. Just because we live out 2 hours south of Seattle, so we're not super close to where we grew up. And I get so fixated on things that at times, like I don't even call people back. And I'm just like,
Mm.
man, I am probably a pretty horrible friend right now. But the intentionality, like you were talking about, of putting that time and commitment in is so important to how we grow as people, because friends, your kids will eventually leave. Your parents, God bless them. We hope they live forever, but they'll eventually die. And what you've got left are essentially your friends, right? Like those are the people that
Yeah.
will be there. And so I love what you were talking about of developing friends and being there and actually going out and trying to find new friends. Because I don't think people go out to the grocery store for a walk thinking today's the day I'm going to make 5 new friends, right? Like it never happens.
Yeah. But I mean, you can set the intention. This year, I'm going to make 3 good friends. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, if you make that intention and you take the consistent actions for that to happen, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And it's going to happen probably in places that you wouldn't have expected. And so, the thing about being what you said, like calling people back, or, you know, I feel like life is really sped up. There's so much coming at us all the time, with the
Yeah.
24-hour news cycle and social media and all our responsibilities and, caring for children, working, having a relationship with our spouse. There's a lot on our plates. And it's really all about, I think, making sure that you don't have too much on your plate and prioritizing what's there. And so even you know, if I'm in a conversation with somebody and they mention that their birthday's coming up, I'll ask them, "Oh, what day is it?" And I'll go home and I'll put it on my calendar as a recurring yearly appointment. So, because my memory, sometimes for me, my memory is not fantastic. I have to write things down or I have to put them on the calendar. Same thing watering the plants. I have to have an app, but there are good ways to use the technology, and that's one of them. And so this way, even though somebody might say, well, that's not sincere, you schedule your friends' birthdays on your calendar. I disagree because if I see it come up and I'm the one that calls them that day or sends them a text, happy birthday, it's very meaningful for them that I thought of them. Doesn't matter what I used to remember what the birthday was. It's that I it's that I remembered at all. And it's the same thing about calling people back. I don't know if this happens for you, but I have friends who only communicate with me via text. I have other friends that communicate email, some call, some, it's like some Instagram messenger or something. Like there's all these different ways people have their choice communication. It's like you kind of have to be willing to figure out what theirs is and meet them there. Because personally, I don't like texting and I don't like messengering. I like good old fashioned pick up the phone. But if I have a great friend who I really like and I value the relationship and she's not a phone gal, she's a texter, okay, I'll text with her. As long as we can still get together in person, which is what I am looking for in the friendship, is some, meaningful face to face. And she's into it. Again, you just meet people where they are. You have to decide, are you getting something out of that relationship? Is it one-sided, or are you getting something? If I have to text in order to keep this relationship with this person that I care about, I'm willing to do it. Um, so we all decide what's important to us and what we're willing to do, if that makes sense.
Cheryl, we're sort of getting to the end of our conversation here, but I've got two more open-ended questions for you. As you think ahead, 10 years in your life here with Funderful and all these other endeavors you have, um, how would you describe what you want to get out of your life in the next 10 years?
Well, I don't want to rush 10 more years, so I could tell you that. I just, like I said, my dad passed away at 58.
Yep,
I'm 56.
yep,
My grandmother passed away a whole bunch of years ago, but I saw her as a very outgoing, social, vivacious woman. And as she got older, she had, pretty bad arthritis, and she just kind of like stopped going out. She sat in her chair all the time, didn't want to leave the house. My grandfather had passed away years before, so she was on her own, and she was in Florida. And it was like sad for me to watch that anytime I would see her or talk to her, that she would just be home and that she wasn't living the way I remembered her when I was
right,
younger.
right.
And I'm watching some other family members on that same path. So for me, I already have a clear message. I don't want that. I don't want to have a life like that. I want to be very active. I want to be fully living life, enjoying my life, however many years I'm here. And so 10 more years from here, I hope I'm still running Funderful. I hope that it is thousands of members, that there's a movement, that it's started up in other states, that there's an online, because I'm thinking about an online membership as well, where if you're not in the local area, but you're liking what this is all about, that there will be a way for you to be connected. Again, we can use technology for good, and still be able to see each other and connect. But I just want it to keep growing as large as it's supposed to get. And so long as every day it's still meaningful for me and is bringing me joy, then I want to keep going.
Cheryl, if you had relatives or friends that watched this podcast, our conversation 5 years from now, what do you hope they get out of it?
If they watch this 5 years from now, I hope they have a good laugh. Like, look, remember when you were just starting and now look at you. And I mean, I hope that I hope the energy that they're experiencing 5 years from now is exactly the same as this excitement and energy that I have.
Awesome. Last one word answer questions. Are you ready? All right. Favorite plant?
You asked me that. That
I want to
is
get it for the record.
this,
Uh,
a weeping fig.
Weeping fig. Favorite tiki drink?
That is a jet pilot.
Whoa. Okay. What that sounds dangerous. What is that?
Jet pilot. It is three different kinds of rum, lime juice. It is falernum,
Mm-hmm.
cinnamon simple syrup, Angostura
Mm-hmm.
bitters.
Wow. That sounds really yummy. I've
It's
never had
good.
it.
It's pretty potent. Yeah.
Favorite Cubs player, either now or in the past?
Anthony Rizzo.
Ooh, good choice. Good choice. Favorite holiday for you?
Favorite holiday is Thanksgiving, because it doesn't matter what religion you are,
Yeah.
everybody's celebrating the same thing.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I might steal that as well. I might steal that as well. Um, All right, Cheryl. Well, that wraps up all of the questions I had. I just want to say I've appreciated you for coming out and sharing your story and telling us about Funderful. We will put any pictures that you want of your plants into either the segment or as a link. I will also put a link to your business in the comments. So for
Okay.
anybody that is listening that wants to sign up can click on that link in the comments. And I wish you well, my friend, and
Thank
happy
you,
Thanksgiving.
Saban. It was wonderful talking with you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Of course. All right. You take it easy. I'll talk to you later.
You too. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.